Ever since the amazing Digital Circus aired over on Glitch's YouTube channel, I've received non-stop requests that I talk about all of the previous characters that seem to have been abstracted in the Digital Circus game, who we seem to see at the bottom of the dark abyss that Cain banishes the abstracted Kaufmo to, and who we also seem to see X'd out on the doors in the hallway containing the various characters' rooms. Let's explore who these people are, how they got there, and what it really means to become abstracted. But real quick, I know you guys love indie animation, so I made my own animated pilot. It's about a washed-up magical girl getting ready to retire and her talking cat, who we happen to have voiced by Sarcastic Chorus.
Let's keep things simple, you know? Rescue some cats stuck in some trees or something.
The cat's in a tree, it's because we want to be there. Leave us the fuck alone.
Click in the corner to watch, or stay tuned until the end of this video for more previews and use the link in the pinned comment down below. Hope to see you guys there. Now, the show was premised on there being 6 humans trapped in some sort of Kid Pick style virtual reality game. But just before the release of the show, promotional materials came out advertising another character, Kaufmo. When the show finally aired, Kaufmo was missing from his place in the opening credits with the other characters, with Pomni suddenly appearing instead. The gang would go to check on Kaufmo, and on the way, we saw the hallway containing each character's bedrooms, though there were more than just 6. Some doors contained photos of characters we knew, but others contained entirely different characters with mysterious X's over their faces. Interestingly, some doors were left with blank mannequins instead of characters, indicating that more players could live there instead of just the 6 we see. However, when they open the door of Kaufmo, they find the strange dark monster we know to be the end result of one of these characters becoming abstracted. As the name suggests, it seems to make the person abstract, instead of very well defined like their 3D model characters tend to be. With this being a digital game that the characters are stuck in, they slowly begin to lose their sanity, and their physical form in the game falls apart, making it abstract. This seems to make them a wild mishmash of computer code going rogue in a video game until it can be placed in the dark abyss that Cain sends all of the abstracted. It seems to many fans that Kaufmo abstracting is what led to Pomni suddenly appearing in the game, or Pomni appearing in the game to Kaufmo abstracting. While the doors seem to indicate that there is room for more characters in the game, as I said, it doesn't 100% mean that the game's code itself can actually handle that many characters, particularly for a long period of time. This game seems to be running endlessly, and probably was not meant to work with so many characters without a break for them and their codes. 6 may be the exact number that the game is able to handle at this point before it starts to stretch itself too thin. Kaufmo was already going crazy, and people seem to think he'd get abstracted next, but I think Pomni appearing may have taken up enough of the video game's energy and resources that the weakest link suddenly cracked, with there not being enough processing power to help Kaufmo stay together anymore. That being said, you could still abstract without someone else appearing first, as you can still descend into insanity, and perhaps without resting in the rooms like Ragatha suggests, you run out the processing power that way as well. But who were these original abstracted characters we can see in the background? At the very beginning of the hallway are 2 very hard characters to see, one that looks like a pink cyclops, and I don't want to guess what the other mishmash of colors is, but both are X'd out, meaning they have been abstracted. Despite being the beginning of the hallway, the order of the characters there seems to be random, with Kinger being the oldest not being at either end, and there being mannequin placeholders spaced throughout. I do think the closeness of the rooms to each other may relate to the closeness of the characters in a way though, with Ragatha and Jax being close to each other in the sense that they exist here at the same time, and perhaps these 2 at the end of the hall came in around the same time and abstracted in similar time frames as well. Following that are 2 generic pet-looking characters. One is just a dog that reminds me of Clifford, and the other is some trippy-looking anteater thing. These characters I would love to find backstories for, but the dog in particular looks pretty generic, and it feels like there isn't some dramatic involvement of these particular characters to the story or its history. The same would go for the purple dragon that we see later, this Pikachu Shrek-looking thing next to Ragatha, and this dopey sock puppet in the background over here. But that isn't the case with a room that appears to belong to Kinger's wife. This character, let's call her a Queener, has an X over her face, indicating that she too has become abstracted. Kinger has supposedly been there the longest according to Jax, explaining why he is more crazy than the others, but that doesn't mean he was the first person there before the other abstracted characters, and may just be the oldest of the latest batch of humans. That being said, it is possible that he and his wife were among the first players in the game, if not the first 2 trapped in it to begin with. I believe Kinger in particular has held on to his sanity with the hope that he can one day find a way to restore his wife to her former existence, and perhaps save the others as well. This seems to have allowed him to hold on to his own form out of sheer will, even if he seems rather mad. But who exactly were all these people before the game? In previous videos, I had theorized that the characters had their consciousness trapped in the game through some larger complex machine. However, fans quickly pointed out that there appears to be just a simple headset that connects the humans to the game on an old-looking PC. Now, in the pilot, Kane shows off his Wacky Watch, which comes with a Wacky Watch website that you can go to. And if you went there, you'd see a commercial for the Digital Circus as a video game with a special microchip that gives you the lifelike visual and audio experiences. My theory at this point is that the chip creates a sort of simulation of your brain to insert into the game that only you can connect to, allowing it to relay information back to your own brain to make the experiences feel exceptionally real. There's a lot of ways that could go wrong, but for now, my key theory is that if a character takes off the helmet, perhaps without properly saving and storing their file, then that version of themselves in the game suddenly exists without the real human piloting it. This would have the baseline of the human it copied, without any of their true memories, explaining why Pomni didn't know her name, but could somewhat recognize familiar settings. This part of the digital circus that the copies are trapped in is a place I believe that Kane began to construct out of spare digital space to deal with the leftover personality uploads that became autonomous. Kane probably felt it was his responsibility to do something about them and perhaps stop them from wreaking havoc on the part of the game that the others play in. Kane appears to have developed spaces just for him and his artificial intelligence assistant Bubble, and there is a lot of void to fill up, probably by design. While the Wacky Watch commercial makes the technology all seem very old, it's actually advanced AI-driven technology, with Kane seemingly being designed to make the game from within his own programming. This would leave him with a lot of space to grow out and expand beyond the initial intents of the game that we know of as the Void. Finally, I cannot stress enough the mythological significance of abstraction and being sent to the abyss. Glitch tends to put a lot of real-world mythology into their shows, with Murder Drones being largely about the fallen angel narrative from the Book of Enoch, and the Digital Circus being a retelling of various Gnostic stories. Gnosticism was a philosophical movement that arose in the early centuries of Christianity that created new stories relating to biblical characters with new twists. A common theme was the God of the Bible being portrayed as an ignorant creator of the physical universe, who manages to trap higher, more divine gods into the flesh of humans to exist in his world of matter. The world is presented as a sort of prison for humans, the same way the Digital Circus is a sort of prison for the characters that feel trapped in it, with Kane playing the part of that god of the physical world, or the demiurge as he's called in these texts. In these texts, there are generally higher dimensions that divine beings can fall from into our world, and just below our physical world is an even darker physical world we think of as Hell, but was then called Tartarus. The physical world as a whole was often presented in these stories as a prison for certain evil beings to be pushed down into, with the ultimate goal being to push them down even further into the world of Tartarus. With humans being the incarnations of divine beings trapped in this world, both good and bad, it makes sense that the abstracted characters become monsters before being sent into the abyss. In these texts, this abyss, this hell, was to be trapped in the physical world as a monster, or a lower animal, or even non-existence, no longer having any semblance of who or what you were in the higher dimensions, or even the body of a human. This pit represents that, with the abstracted characters all being horrible monsters. All of this mythological inspiration leaves open the possibility that the characters aren't there by accident, but that someone much bigger and more sinister may have purposely trapped the people in the game. But for more information on that theory, check out our previous video on the subject, as well as the pilot for the Magical Girl Garnet Heart show.